My husband's grandmother refused to attend our wedding because I'm not the right religion, then expected to be in all our family photos. So I did this, and I woke up to 34 missed calls. Am I the idiot for planning to confront my husband's grandma at an anniversary party after she excluded me from our wedding? Throwaway, because my husband knows my main account, and I don't know if I want him to see this yet. I'm honestly not even sure if I'm being petty or if I'm finally standing up for myself after years of this crap. So I, female, 29, met my husband David, male, 31, about 4 years ago at our friend Jake's housewarming party. We spent the night talking and bonding over this weird board game collection Jake had. I'm talking the super nerdy strategy games most people have never heard of, not like Monopoly or whatever. David was obsessed with this one game about trading in the Mediterranean, and I was impressed with how into it he was. Anyway, we exchanged numbers and the rest is history, I guess. Some background. I was raised in a progressive Jewish household. We celebrated the holidays and I had a bat mitzvah, but we weren't super strict. David comes from a Catholic family, but he's not really practicing. He goes to Christmas Mass with his family, and that's basically it. I'm a school counselor elementary school, which is ironic because I'm supposedly good at conflict resolution, but can't figure out how to handle my own family issues. Make it make sense, lol. When we first started dating, most of David's family was pretty welcoming. His parents, Margaret and Thomas, were nice. His sister, Nicole, was super friendly. But his grandmother, Ruth, female, 78, was different. She's been the family matriarch since her husband died about 15 years ago, and everyone in the family basically worships her, especially David's mom. From day one, Ruth would make comments like, "Emma is such a nice girl, but not quite the right fit for the family." Or she'd ask David in front of me when he was going to find a nice Catholic girl to settle down with. I tried so hard to win her over. I would help with dishes after family dinners, ask about her church activities, bring her little gifts. Nothing worked. When we got engaged 2 years ago, things got really bad. Ruth sent David a handwritten letter saying she couldn't support our marriage because it was outside the true faith, and she wouldn't attend our wedding because it would be condoning sin and corrupting the family bloodline. This isn't the 1800s. The weird thing is, David has cousins who married non-Catholics, and Ruth went to their weddings no problem. She even went to his cousin Mike's wedding, and his wife is an atheist. So I'm pretty sure this is specifically about me being Jewish, though nobody will actually admit that. David tried talking to her multiple times. They had dinner to try to fix things, where she told him she had prayed for him to find a Catholic girl his whole life and felt betrayed. He came home looking really upset. I've completely made peace with Ruth's decision not to come to our wedding. Okay, that's a lie. It still bothers me a lot. But what kills me is seeing how much it hurts David. He puts on a brave face, but I know he was sad that she wasn't there. We had a beautiful interfaith ceremony with both a rabbi and David's cousin who's a priest. This is getting long, sorry. But I need to explain the current situation. So whenever we're at family gatherings now, Ruth makes these comments about when David comes back to the church or asks if our future children will be raised properly. I used to think she was just stubborn and would eventually come around, but it's been 2 years and if anything, she's gotten worse. Oh, and I once tried to make peace by baking her my grandmother's cherry strudel. She politely declined to even try it, saying something about her stomach being sensitive, but then ate like 3 pieces of pie for dessert. So, yeah. The current issue. David's parents' 40th anniversary celebration is coming up in 2 weeks, and Ruth has been making a big deal about being prominently featured in all the family photos. She specifically told the family she wants to stand next to David in the group shots because I'm his only living grandparent, meaning I would be pushed to the side, even though I'm his wife. I called Ruth yesterday to confirm she got the invitation to the anniversary party. She said she was looking forward to seeing the whole family together, which felt like a dig since she didn't consider me family enough to come to our wedding. When I brought up the family photos, she immediately said she should be next to David as his grandmother. I tried to suggest that typically spouses stand together, but she shut me down saying that's not how they've always done it in their family. When I suggested maybe doing different combinations, she cut me off saying she's been in the family for 55 years. I got flustered and backed down. She ended by saying it's just tradition. When I told David about it later, he just sighed and said that's just how she is, and that it's easier if we just go along with it. Thanks for the support. What makes this especially infuriating is that she refused to be in our actual wedding photos, but now expects prime positioning in family photos. Like, you don't get to have it both ways. I still have her wedding rejection letter in my desk drawer. I don't even know why I keep it. Sometimes I reread it when I want to feel angry, I guess. Anyway, I've been thinking about this for days, and I think I have a plan for how to handle the situation at the anniversary party. I think it's completely fair given her past behavior, but part of me wonders if I'm being petty or if I should just keep trying to make peace. It's been 2 years of me trying with zero effort back from her. Edit. Since a lot of people are asking, no, my husband doesn't know the specific details of my plan yet. I've just told him I'm handling the photo situation because I know he'll be anxious about potential drama. And honestly, I know how Ruth operates now. She uses tradition and family values as weapons, so I'm planning to use her own logic against her. Edit 2. A few people have asked if I've tried talking to David's parents about this. Yes, they're aware of the tension, but they basically tiptoe around Ruth too. His mom Margaret especially seems afraid of upsetting her mother. The one time I brought it up, she just looked sad and said Ruth is set in her ways, which seems to be the family motto at this point. Edit 3. To clarify about the bloodline comment, yes, I asked David about this specifically because it felt gross. He said his grandmother has always been obsessed with their Catholic heritage and having Catholic great-grandchildren. I'm not sure if it's anti-Semitism exactly or just general religious prejudice. Either way, it's hurtful. Now for the first update. So first of all, I want to thank everyone who commented on my last post. I was honestly shocked by how many people responded. RIP my inbox, lol. To everyone who asked if I'd tried talking directly to Ruth about how her behavior made me feel, yes, multiple times, but she never listens and just makes passive-aggressive comments about my religion. It's been almost a week since the anniversary party, and oh my frickin' god, I don't even know where to begin. Things went not exactly as planned. I mean, they did go as planned, but the fallout has been way more intense than I expected. So in the 2 weeks leading up to David's parents' anniversary celebration, I came up with a plan to deal with Ruth's photo demands. For those who didn't see my original post, she refused to come to our wedding because I'm Jewish, but now wanted to stand next to my husband in his parents' anniversary photos. The audacity, right? Anyway, I contacted Jen, our original wedding photographer. She actually remembered the whole Ruth situation because apparently David's mom had mentioned it to her on our wedding day when she was organizing family photos. Jen was immediately on board with my idea when I explained what I wanted to do. I spent hours going through our wedding album. I made a detailed list of all the family photo combinations we took at the wedding and noted exactly which ones were missing Ruth. I debated telling David exactly what I was planning, but I knew he'd get all anxious about the potential drama. He hates confrontation. So I just told him I was handling the photo situation and that I'd hired Jen for his parents' party. He gave me this weird look that I thought meant he was impressed with my planning, but in retrospect was probably more like, oh God, what is she going to do? The day of the party, I was super nervous. We arrived early to help set up, and I was going over details with Jen when I spotted Ruth in the parking lot. I literally ducked behind a column to avoid her, which was both completely childish and totally necessary for my mental health. When everyone arrived, Ruth was wearing this formal dress. I waited until after the first toast to make my announcement. So here's how it went down. I stood up and got everyone's attention. The room got quiet pretty fast. I thanked everyone for coming to celebrate Margaret and Thomas's 40 years together and said how grateful I was to be part of the family. Then I announced my surprise. Our wedding photographer was there, and we were going to do some wedding redo photos for those who couldn't attend our actual wedding day. I explained we'd recreate specific group shots from our wedding album, which I had brought along. The room got really quiet. Ruth looked angry. David looked surprised, but squeezed my hand supportively. Ruth said this was unnecessary for today's celebration, using that fake sweet voice she uses when she's actually furious. I told her we were simply honoring her decision not to participate in our wedding day, and this way everyone could be included now. We proceeded with the photo session, recreating wedding photos with David's uncle, who had been in the hospital during our wedding, and some cousins who couldn't travel at the time. Everyone was being weirdly polite about it. Then came the moment I'd been waiting for. Jen called for the family wedding party photo, and Ruth actually stepped forward with everyone else. I told her this one was specifically recreating our wedding day. When she said she was family and should be in it, I told her these photos were specifically for those who wanted to be at our wedding, but couldn't make it for legitimate reasons. Ruth's face turned super red. David's sister Nicole whispered, "Oh my God," under her breath. Everything was so quiet. Ruth said I was deliberately excluding her. She sounded genuinely hurt, which wasn't part of my plan exactly. I replied that we were respecting her choice not to participate in our marriage celebration, which she made very clear. Ruth just stood there for a moment, then turned and walked out of the room. After the wedding redo photos were done, we did regular anniversary photos, which Ruth eventually came back for, but she was super quiet. I noticed her hands were shaking a bit when we posed, and for a split second I wondered if I'd gone too far. But then I remembered her bloodline comments, and how she spent 2 years making me feel unwelcome. I overheard David's cousins saying it was about time someone stood up to Grandma Ruth, but his aunts and uncles looked pretty uncomfortable. Father Andrew, who's David's cousin, told me it was masterfully handled, but that I should prepare for fallout, which was both validating and terrifying. David was annoyed. I hadn't given him a heads up about the specifics, but after we got home, he admitted it was kind of poetic justice, since Ruth couldn't really argue with her own logic. We left the party earlier than planned because things were super awkward, and Ruth had already disappeared right after the photos. We went to bed thinking everything was over, and we could finally move forward with clearer boundaries. I was actually proud of myself for standing up to her without completely losing my cool. Boy, was I wrong. So yeah, that's what happened. I thought it would just be an awkward moment, and then we'd all move on. But apparently I seriously underestimated how big a deal this would be to David's family. Edit. To everyone asking if I regret what I did, honestly, no. I mean, I feel bad about the timing since it was Margaret and Thomas's celebration, but after 2 years of Ruth's behavior, I don't regret finally standing up for myself. Edit 2. Some people are asking about Margaret and Thomas's reaction. Margaret looked stressed the whole time but didn't say anything directly to me. Thomas actually gave me a weird little nod after Ruth walked out, which I'm choosing to interpret as approval, but who knows. Edit 3. A lot of you are asking if I've heard from Ruth since the party. Not directly, but apparently she's been calling other family members non-stop. David's sister texted me this morning saying Ruth called her at 6 a.m. crying about how I publicly humiliated her, so yeah, still processing all that. Edit 4. To the person who asked if I'm concerned about long-term family consequences, of course I am. I'm not completely oblivious, despite what this post probably suggests, lol. But I honestly felt like I was damned if I did, damned if I didn't. The status quo was Ruth constantly undermining our marriage while everyone pretended it was fine. At least now it's out in the open. Edit 5. I know I come across as petty here, because I kind of was, but I should mention I've been dealing with Ruth's comments about when David comes back to the church and questions about raising kids properly for 2 years. I'm not usually a confrontational person, but after trying the polite approach so many times, I just snapped. Now for the second update. So it's been about a week and a half since the anniversary party drama. Thanks for all the support, by the way. It really helped. And a lot has happened. Like way more than I expected. I'm still processing everything, honestly. The morning after the party, I woke up at like 6 a.m. I always wake up super early after family stuff, anxiety I guess, and check my phone to find it blowing up. I had 34 missed calls. 34. 12 from Ruth, 8 from Margaret, mother-in-law, 5 from Thomas, father-in-law, 7 from various other family members, and 2 from Father Andrew, David's cousin who's a priest. I just sat there staring at my phone feeling this weird mix of like total panic but also kind of vindicated, like finally people were actually reacting to the situation instead of just pretending everything was fine. David was still completely passed out next to me with his phone on silent. How do men sleep through anything? I decided to listen to one of Ruth's voicemails, and holy shit, you guys. She was crying. She was sobbing about how I humiliated her and disrespected their faith traditions. It was really uncomfortable to listen to, but also kind of felt like she was trying to manipulate me. Like this is the same woman who wrote that letter about our bloodline and refused to even come to our wedding. And now she's crying because I called her out on it. I finally woke David up and showed him all the missed calls. He said he knew this would happen, but he didn't regret supporting me at the party. I love him for that at least. His sister Nicole had texted me too, being super supportive and even sending screenshots of the family group chat, which was wild. The younger cousins and relatives were all basically defending me, saying it was about time someone stood up to Grandma Ruth, while the older ones were freaking out about disrespect and family traditions. I swear I never wanted to, create this huge division in the family or anything. But at the same time, it felt kind of good that people were finally acknowledging Ruth's behavior instead of just making excuses for it. Does that make me terrible? I don't know. The drama just kept escalating all morning as we started returning calls. Margaret, mother-in-law, initially was scolding me for causing a scene at their anniversary party, but then revealed that Ruth had been calling everyone in the family all night, including distant relatives who weren't even at the party. Apparently she was telling everyone her own dramatic version of what happened. Then something unexpected happened. Father Andrew called and asked if David and I could meet him at the church community room. He said Ruth, Margaret, and Thomas would be there too, and that he had some important context that might help resolve the situation. I was terrified, but David thought we should go. So we get to the church community room, and Ruth, Margaret, Thomas, and Father Andrew are already there. Ruth refused to make eye contact with me. Father Andrew welcomed us and suggested we all take a moment of silent reflection. Very priest-like of him, lol. Margaret was super nervous and kept adjusting her scarf and asked if anyone wanted coffee. I offered to help with the coffee, trying to break the tension, and Ruth muttered that now I wanted to be helpful. I literally bit my tongue so hard I think I tasted blood. David sat directly across from his grandmother and just stared at her, which was kind of badass. Father Andrew started by acknowledging the difficult situation regarding the wedding and photos. Then Thomas, father-in-law, surprisingly spoke up and told his mother she couldn't have it both ways. Ruth looked shocked that her son was actually saying something. And then Father Andrew shared something that no one expected, a family secret about Ruth herself. Apparently, when Ruth married Thomas's father, her own family had objected on religious grounds because he was previously divorced, which was against Catholic teaching at the time. She had basically been in a situation really similar to mine, facing religious prejudice from family over her marriage choice. I couldn't believe it. This woman, who had been judging me for being Jewish and not the right fit, had gone through something so similar, and instead of having empathy, she just continued the cycle. It got really intense as family members started openly discussing years of Ruth controlling everything about religion in the family. Margaret admitted she's always been afraid to stand up to her mother. It was like watching a family therapy session that had been building up for decades. Father Andrew asked Ruth if she saw any parallels between her situation and mine. She tried to claim it was completely different back then, but David asked how it was different. She tried to explain that church rules have changed regarding divorce, and I pointed out that interfaith marriage is also more accepted now. Ruth got really emotional and said she just wanted to preserve their family traditions, and David told her she can't reject our marriage and then expect to be treated like she blessed it. I was so proud of him in that moment. Ruth started crying again, saying she feels pushed out of the family. And then Margaret surprisingly took my hand and told Ruth that she did this to herself. I almost fell out of my chair. Then Ruth finally looked directly at me and asked what I wanted from her. I hadn't prepared for this question at all, but I realized what I really wanted wasn't approval or anything. It was just acknowledgement and respect. I told her I would welcome her into our family photos and our lives if she would make an actual effort to understand and respect my faith rather than just tolerating it or trying to convert David back. After a really long silence, Ruth agreed to attend our upcoming 5-year vow renewal ceremony, which we'd been planning for next year, if I would be willing to meet with her and Father Andrew to explain some Jewish traditions to her. Things are still kind of tense, but weirdly Ruth has actually started asking me genuine questions about Jewish holidays and traditions in the weeks since our confrontation. She even asked what Hanukkah was actually celebrating, which is basic, but at least she's trying. I'm still dealing with various relatives taking sides. Some think I went too far at the party, and others say Ruth needed the wake-up call. But I feel more confident in my place in the family after standing up for myself. Oh, and something else major that adds a whole new dimension to this. I recently found out I'm pregnant, so all these religious identity questions are suddenly feeling way more important. But at least I feel like we're actually talking about them now, instead of just pretending there's no issue. I guess sometimes you need to create uncomfortable moments to build authentic relationships. I never expected 34 missed calls and a family intervention, but it kind of helped everyone address the tension that's been building for years. Ruth has even asked if she can help plan the baby's welcoming ceremony. I'm not totally convinced this change will last, but it's something. Edit. A lot of people are asking how far along I am. Just about 8 weeks. We weren't planning to tell family yet, but with all the drama, it just kind of came out during a conversation with David's parents. Ruth doesn't know yet. Edit 2. To everyone saying I'm naive for trusting Ruth's change of heart, I get it. Trust me, I'm proceeding with extreme caution here. As many of you pointed out on my last post, she's shown who she is for years. But also, people can change when confronted with their own hypocrisy. Maybe. Edit 3. Some people are asking how Father Andrew knew about Ruth's past marriage drama. Apparently, he found some old family letters when cleaning out the church records. Ruth's parents had actually written to the previous priest about their concerns. He didn't share this to hurt Ruth, but to help her see the parallel. Edit 4. To the person asking if I regret the photo stunt, honestly, no. If I hadn't done that, we'd never have had this breakthrough. Sometimes you have to push people to their breaking point to get past the BS. Edit 5. For those suggesting Ruth is only pretending to change because of the baby news, she actually doesn't know about the pregnancy yet. We've only told Margaret and Thomas so far. So her questions about Jewish traditions seem genuine, or at least not baby motivated. Edit 6. Yes, we are planning to raise our kids with both traditions. We'll probably do Christmas and Hanukkah, Easter and Passover. I want them to understand both sides of their heritage. And no, a baby doesn't magically fix family problems. I'm not that delusional.